The storm had come without warning. Jaren Kale tightened his grip on the controls of his small starship as rain lashed the cockpit window, creating a blur of gray and electric blue. Thunder roared across the jagged cliffs of the frontier planet below, and lightning split the sky in jagged forks that briefly illuminated the rocky terrain. He had flown many dangerous missions in his life, but the Edge Worlds had a way of reminding even the best pilots that nature could be as deadly as any enemy. Jaren's ship, a sturdy one-man fighter called the Skyrunner, was built for speed and precision, yet even it shuddered under the fury of the storm. He adjusted the shields, watching the readouts as the turbulence caused the ship to pitch dangerously. The storm was supposed to be seasonal, but this one felt different, angrier, more chaotic, as though the planet itself were warning him to stay away. Then, through the sheets of rain, he saw a figure moving across the jagged cliffs. At first, he thought it might be a survivor from some previous expedition. But as his eyes adjusted, he realized this was no ordinary human. The figure was tall, covered in wet fur that clung to a muscular frame, and it moved with the precision of a trained soldier. Its face had sharp, intelligent features, and the eyes, glowing faintly in the storm, were calculating and wary. Jaren felt a surge of curiosity. Picking up a lone stranger in a storm was risky, especially when the stranger looked like something out of the old Holo archives, a species of wolf-like humanoid long rumored to command fleets beyond the frontier. Still, he couldn't leave someone to die in this storm. He activated the landing stabilizers and guided the Skyrunner down toward the figure. The ground was slick with mud and rain, and the figure barely had time to notice the approaching ship. With a roar of engines, Jaren landed the fighter nearby, keeping the shields up to prevent a slip on the wet rocks. The figure froze, then looked at him, eyes wide with a mixture of relief and caution. You're human," the wolf said, voice low but commanding. His accent was foreign, clipped, almost militaristic. "I thought no matter." "Thank you," Jaren blinked. He had expected fear, maybe aggression, but not politeness delivered in such a commanding tone. "I'm Captain Jaren Kale. You're lucky I saw you. Come on, get in before lightning fries us both." The wolf hesitated, then approached. Water dripped from his fur in thick rivulets, and his armor was battered. Despite the size of the storm, he moved with careful, measured steps. Jaren opened the hatch, and the wolf climbed in without hesitation. Inside the cockpit, Jaren studied him. He had never seen a wolf-like humanoid up close, and yet there was something noble about him. A presence that demanded attention without words. "Name?" Jaren asked. "Admiral Riven," the wolf replied. He shook off some of the rain, water spraying across the small cabin. "My fleet was attacked. I barely escaped. I need your help." "I need your help." Jaren's curiosity deepened. "A wolf admiral? On a backwater planet? Attacked by who?" he asked, keeping his hands steady on the controls as the storm raged. Riven's eyes darkened. "A coalition of alien species. They seek to wipe out any independent fleets, any planet that refuses to bow. My fleet, most of it is gone." His voice trembled. Not with fear, but with restrained fury. "I survived, only by the mercy of this storm." Jaren's mind raced. He had flown through dangerous territory before, but interstellar politics, war fleets, alien coalitions, it was a new level of risk. Yet something about Riven's presence, his calm dignity in the face of disaster, inspired confidence rather than fear. Humans were often underestimated in these regions, but Jaren knew that quick thinking and ingenuity could turn impossible situations into victories. "All right," Jaren said, setting the navigation for the nearest space station. "I don't know your politics, Admiral, but I don't leave people behind. You'll stay in my ship until we get somewhere safe. After that, we can figure out the rest." "No," Riven nodded, a flicker of relief in his sharp eyes. "I do not ask for mercy lightly. Thank you, Captain. Your species is remarkable." Even in the chaos, you show honor. Jaren grunted modestly. We do what we have to. Now hold on tight. This storm isn't going to wait for pleasantries. The Skyrunner lifted off, thrusters cutting through the wind and rain. Lightning struck dangerously close, illuminating the cockpit in brief bursts of white light. Riven held his ground, gripping a rail but moving with the agility of a soldier trained for zero gravity in combat. Jaren had to admire his composure. As they ascended, the wolf began to speak, his voice calm now that he was inside the relative safety of the ship. The attackers, if they succeed, they will not just destroy my fleet. They will threaten entire sectors, including yours. You humans are small, yes, but unpredictable. I believe you can tip the balance. Jaren chuckled despite himself. Small, but unpredictable. I like the sound of that. But don't put all your faith in me. Storms, fleets, and cannons don't care who's clever, they just destroy. Riven's ears twitched. Cleverness is survival. You have a way of seeing paths others do not. That is why I chose to trust you. Trust. Jaren had dealt with smug aliens, desperate humans, and mercenaries. But there was something different in Riven's tone. It wasn't fear, bargaining, or arrogance. It was respect. And respect was rare in the outer sectors. The storm finally began to weaken as they reached higher altitudes. Rain splattered the cockpit less, and lightning became distant flashes on the horizon. Jaren guided the ship toward the space station, its massive structure jutting out of the cliffside like a fortress. Docking bays glowed with energy shields that shimmered in the residual storm light. Riven studied the approach silently, occasionally scanning the readouts Jaren handed him. Impressive controls for such a small craft, he commented. Your species builds machines that rival my fleet's best scouts. I did not expect this level of skill, Jaren smirked. We're used to surviving on ingenuity. When the odds are stacked against us, humans find ways to turn the tide. I guess it shows. As the Skyrunner touched down in the docking bay, alarms suddenly blared across the station. Red lights flashed, and automated voices shouted warnings of incoming ships. Jaren froze for a moment, then quickly assessed the situation. 3 massive starships, unlike any he had seen, were descending rapidly, shields flaring to compensate for atmospheric entry. Riven's ears twitched, and his expression tightened. Allied reinforcements, he said. But they are in trouble. We must act fast. Jaren's hands moved instinctively over the controls, coordinating with the station's docking systems. All right. Let's get them inside without crashing everything. He guided the ships into docking bays with precision, using every ounce of skill he had. Each vessel shuddered under the station's magnetic fields, but Jaren kept them steady. Finally, the 3 starships landed safely, and their hatch doors opened. Alien soldiers poured out, shouting orders in their native tongue. One of them ran forward, ears perked and eyes scanning, until they locked onto Riven. Admiral, we thought you were lost. Riven nodded, voice firm. I survived, thanks to a human. He gestured to Jaren, who gave a modest wave. The alien's eyes widened. They had never seen a human act so fearlessly among their ranks. Riven's fleet, small though it was now, had always valued honor and courage. But humans possessed a different quality. Adaptability in the face of danger. Ingenuity that defied expectation. Jaren realized that this was only the beginning. The Wolf Admiral's words echoed in his mind. The galaxy was shifting, and humans were about to become part of something much bigger than themselves. As the storm clouds dissipated, revealing the fractured skies above the frontier planet, Jaren Kale prepared for what was coming. He did not know the full extent of the war or the role he would play. But one thing was certain. Humanity had arrived in a galaxy that had underestimated it for too long, and this Wolf Admiral, drenched and desperate, had just become the first of many who would learn that lesson the hard way. The engines of the Skyrunner hummed steadily, carrying 2 unlikely allies toward an uncertain future. But in that moment, Jaren felt a spark of excitement he had not known in years. Adventure awaited, and this time, the stakes were higher than anything he had ever faced, and somewhere deep inside, he knew humans would rise to meet it. The three massive starships loomed in the docking bay, their hulls gleaming under the station's lights. Jaren Kale stepped out of the Skyrunner, keeping a careful eye on the alien soldiers pouring from their vessels. Their armor was strange and imposing, metallic plates patterned like scales, glinting even in the dim lights of the bay. They moved with precision, forming ranks almost automatically, and yet every movement seemed carefully observed, calculated, as if every officer expected catastrophe at any moment. Admiral Riven stepped beside Jaren, towering and dignified even while drenched from the storm. His wet fur still clung to his frame, but he carried himself like a leader born to command. "These are my allies," he said quietly, "and they are desperate. If we fail to act quickly, countless lives, human and alien, will be lost." Jaren raised an eyebrow. "And they're asking for me? Why not you?" Riven's ears twitched, and he glanced at him with a mixture of admiration and respect. "Because," he said, "they know humans think differently. You see possibilities that others overlook. You survive situations that would destroy fleets. Your species is unpredictable. In the best sense." Jaren swallowed. He had dealt with alien fleets before, but nothing like this. The stakes were enormous, and the alien respect was both flattering and terrifying. "All right," he said, his voice steady. "Tell me what's going on." Step by step, the soldiers led them to a large command chamber aboard the central ship. Holographic displays floated in the air, showing star systems, fleet positions, and red blips indicating enemy forces. Jaren's eyes widened. He had seen battle plans before, but nothing of this scale. Entire sectors were under threat, and the alien coalition seeking dominance was ruthless. Riven pointed to the holograms. "The enemy seeks to control the outer sectors. They have captured or destroyed most independent fleets. My forces are scattered. My allies here, these are the only reinforcements that survived the initial strike." A female alien officer stepped forward, her scales shimmering silver. She spoke in a clipped, urgent tone, and the translator device in Jaren's headset converted it into understandable words. "We need your guidance, human. You have proven in past encounters that your quick thinking and improvisation can save entire fleets. We cannot do this without you." Jaren took a deep breath. He had faced impossible odds before, but this was different. These were not simulations or small-scale skirmishes. This was full-blown interstellar warfare, and the survival of countless beings, both human and alien, depended on him. "I need details," he said. "Where are the enemy forces? What's their weakness?" Riven's eyes darkened. "They are well-armed and relentless. Conventional strategies have failed. They anticipate standard formations and tactics. That is why you are needed. You do not follow patterns. You adapt. You find solutions others cannot see." Jaren nodded slowly, absorbing the scale of the situation. His mind raced with possibilities, analyzing every scenario. He felt the familiar thrill of a challenge, the rush that came with high stakes and life-or-death decisions. Despite the enormity of the situation, he could not deny a small spark of excitement. This was humanity's chance to prove itself on a galactic stage. The officers moved aside, allowing Jaren to study the fleet layouts. Red blips marked enemy ships scattered across the sectors, each one heavily armed and mobile. The Allied ships under Riven's command were outnumbered and spread thin. Conventional attacks would fail. Jaren's eyes scanned the holographic display, tracing possible paths through asteroid fields and nebulae, searching for opportunities the aliens might overlook. "Their weapons rely on predictable targeting systems," he said finally. "If we can disrupt their sensors and create confusion, we can strike at key points. I can guide your fleet through maneuvers they won't anticipate." Riven's ears twitched. "Your intuition is remarkable. Even my most trusted officers lack this clarity. If you succeed, we might turn the tide of this war." Jaren allowed himself a small smile. Then we start now. I don't have time to wait for formalities. The fleet mobilized immediately. Jaren took command of a tactical display, issuing commands to the alien ships in coordination with Riven. His instructions were unconventional maneuvers that would seem risky to any trained officer, but his logic was sound. He used asteroid fields for cover, directed ships to feint and retreat strategically, and timed strikes to exploit gaps in enemy formations. As the ships moved into position, the enemy responded predictably, attempting to anticipate standard formations. But Jaren's unorthodox strategies kept them off balance. Missiles and plasma beams streaked across space, intercepted or dodged through precise timing and clever maneuvers. Jaren's human adaptability became clear. Where others relied on brute force, he relied on creativity and foresight. Riven observed silently, impressed by the humans' decisiveness. "They underestimate humans," he said softly to his officers, "yet every move shows a brilliance they cannot predict. This is why I brought him aboard." Hours passed as the fleet advanced, moving through asteroid fields and energy storms. Jaren coordinated every movement, relying on instinct, skill, and a keen understanding of physics. His strategies began to pay off. Enemy ships faltered, their formations breaking under unexpected attacks. Several were forced into collisions with asteroids or forced to retreat. The Allied officers began to trust him, following his orders even when they seemed unconventional. Jaren felt a strange sense of camaraderie forming between him and the Wolf Admiral's officers. Despite the differences in species and culture, the shared goal of survival and victory united them. Amid the battle, a warning alarm blared across the flagship. A fleet of heavily armed enemy cruisers was approaching, faster and larger than any Jaren had anticipated. He quickly calculated trajectories and recognized the danger. If they engaged head-on, the Allied fleet would be annihilated. "Listen carefully," Jaren shouted over the comms. "We're not attacking. We're luring them into the nebula. Use the magnetic disturbances to hide our movements and strike when they least expect it. Timing is everything." The Allied ships executed his plan flawlessly, weaving through the nebula and creating a chaotic but controlled environment. The enemy cruisers entered, unaware of hidden ambush positions. Then, at the precise moment, the fleet struck from multiple angles. Missiles, lasers, and coordinated strikes disabled key enemy vessels without risking the bulk of the fleet. Riven's ears twitched in astonishment. "Incredible," he muttered. "I have never seen such coordinated ingenuity. Humans may be small, but their impact is immeasurable." Jaren grinned, feeling a rush of satisfaction. "Small, but unpredictable," he said quietly to himself. The battle continued for hours, with Jaren guiding the fleet through relentless maneuvers, using asteroid fields, magnetic storms, and unexpected tactical decisions to outwit the enemy. The Wolf Admiral's fleet, once desperate and scattered, now moved with renewed purpose, inspired by the human pilot who refused to follow conventional strategies. By the end of the engagement, the enemy had been pushed back, suffering significant losses, and the Allied fleet had secured a strategic sector. For the first time in days, there was a moment of calm. Ships drifted in formation, engines humming quietly as crews repaired damage. Riven approached Jaren, his expression a mixture of gratitude and respect. "Captain Kale, you have not only saved lives but shown a path that even my most experienced officers did not see. Humanity's ingenuity is a force the galaxy cannot ignore." Jaren shook his head modestly. "I just do what I have to. Anyone else would have done the same. Maybe. But I won't lie. I enjoy the challenge." Riven's eyes gleamed. "Then you will be needed often. The war is far from over. But with humans like you, perhaps we have a chance." As they watched the stars through the observation deck, the aftermath of the battle was clear. The Allied fleet had survived against overwhelming odds, not through brute strength, but through clever strategy, adaptability, and fearless decision-making. Humans, Jaren realized, were beginning to make their mark in ways the galaxy had never imagined. The female officer stepped forward, her voice respectful. Captain Kale, your methods are unconventional, but effective. If you continue with us, you may change the course of this war entirely. Jaren nodded, feeling a weight of responsibility but also an undeniable sense of purpose. He had been an ordinary pilot, surviving dangerous missions at the edge of known space. But now, he was part of something far larger, a war that would determine the fate of entire sectors and humanity's place within the galaxy. As the fleet prepared to move to the next sector, Riven placed a hand on Jaren's shoulder, a rare gesture of trust and recognition. "We need you," he said simply, "not as a tool, not as a soldier, but as a mind capable of seeing what others cannot. Humanity will rise, and you will be at the forefront." Jaren felt a surge of pride and determination. He had faced storms, ambushes, and the unknown, and yet he had not faltered. This was only the beginning, and he knew that with courage, skill, and ingenuity, humans could truly be a force that even the most powerful fleets of the galaxy could not ignore. And somewhere deep in the stars, Jaren understood that this wolf admiral, desperate and drenched, had just opened the door to a new future, one where humans were no longer underestimated, and one where their unpredictable brilliance could change the course of war itself. The calm after the battle was brief. Jaren Kale knew better than anyone that in space, a moment of peace was often just the quiet before a storm. The fleet had survived, but the enemy was still out there, stronger and more determined than ever. In the observation deck of the central flagship, Jaren watched the stars streak by, as smaller scout ships transmitted reports of enemy movements. Every signal told the same story. The enemy was regrouping, preparing for an all-out strike. Riven stood beside him, his wet fur now dry and his armor repaired, the markings of command gleaming on his chest. "The enemy believes we are weakened," the Wolf Admiral said. "They think we cannot mount a counterattack. They are wrong. But this time, we must be careful. We cannot afford mistakes." Jaren turned to him, confidence tempered by caution. "I don't like being predictable, and neither should they. But brute force alone won't win this fight. We need a plan that hits where it hurts and leaves them unprepared." Riven's ears twitched. "You speak like a strategist. That is why I brought you here. Humans think differently than my officers. You see paths where we see walls. The galaxy will remember this day." The fleet gathered in the strategy room, the holographic map glowing in the center. Ships were plotted across several sectors, and red blips indicated enemy positions. Jaren studied the patterns, analyzing the movements, the likely targets, and the weaknesses. Then he leaned forward, tracing a path with his finger through an asteroid belt that ran like a jagged scar across the sector. "This belt," he said, pointing, "is unstable, but it gives us cover. The enemy won't expect ships to maneuver through it at full speed. They believe it's impassable. We'll use that to our advantage." The officers exchanged skeptical glances, but Riven nodded slowly. "Unorthodox, but it may succeed. Your plan relies on speed, precision, and courage qualities my fleet rarely sees outside of battle legends." Jaren smiled faintly. "Then let's show them what humans can do." The fleet moved out, with Jaren guiding them through the maze of asteroids. The ships weaved between jagged rocks, dodging sudden gravitational anomalies and streams of debris. The enemy scanners were disrupted by the chaotic environment, their targeting systems struggling to track the maneuvering fleet. Jaren's instincts guided every move. He had flown through storms, ambushes, and enemy fire before. But nothing compared to this. Every second counted, and the stakes were higher than ever. A single miscalculation could destroy the entire fleet. Yet he remained calm, focused, and precise. As they emerged from the asteroid field, the enemy cruisers appeared. Massive and imposing. Their weapons locked onto the fleet, and in a few moments, they would unleash a storm of plasma and missiles. Jaren didn't panic. Instead, he issued orders that seemed reckless, daring the alien officers to trust him. "Split into 3 groups," he commanded. 2 groups will feint left and right. I will lead the central strike. Aim for their command vessels first. Disable them, then pick off the rest." The Allied officers hesitated for a split second, but Riven's nod encouraged them. "Trust him," the Wolf Admiral said. "He sees what we do not." The plan unfolded perfectly. The two flanking groups drew enemy fire, forcing the cruisers to split their focus. Jaren led the central strike, weaving between missile barrages, guiding the fleet through precise, daring maneuvers. He calculated angles, speeds, and timing with human intuition, a skill no alien computer could replicate. The enemy command vessel appeared, larger than any other ship in the field, bristling with weapons. Jaren's heart pounded, but he remained focused. "Aim for their engines and shields," he instructed. "We disable them first, then strike the weapons. Precision over force." Missiles streaked through space, hitting the command vessel in weak spots, identified by Jaren. The ship shuddered, its shields flickering under the targeted assault. Enemy vessels tried to regroup, but Jaren anticipated every movement, directing Allied ships to exploit the gaps. Riven watched in awe as human ingenuity transformed the tide of battle. "Incredible," he muttered. "Even my best strategists could not have predicted this." Hours passed as the battle raged. Jaren's tactics were unconventional, relying on unpredictability, adaptability, and creativity, rather than brute force. The Allied fleet moved as a single, coordinated organism under his guidance, striking where the enemy was weakest and retreating where danger was greatest. Despite the chaos, moments of clarity emerged. Jaren noticed a pattern in the enemy's formation, a repetitive response to attacks. Using this, he devised a trap. "We'll make them think we're retreating," he told Riven, "then loop around through the nebula. They won't see us until it's too late." The fleet executed the maneuver flawlessly. The enemy, convinced the humans and Wolf fleet were in retreat, pursued aggressively. Suddenly, Jaren's fleet struck from the hidden positions within the nebula. Laser fire and missiles tore through the enemy cruisers, disabling key ships before the attackers could react. Riven's ears twitched, admiration evident. Humans are remarkable. They thrive in chaos, yet create order. This is genius. Jaren's mind never stopped calculating. He anticipated enemy counterattacks, adjusted the fleet's movements, and communicated precise commands. Every maneuver relied on intuition, courage, and the ability to see paths others could not. The battle became a dance of strategy, with humans and aliens working together seamlessly under his guidance. By the end of the engagement, the enemy had been dealt a serious blow. Their fleet was fractured, command vessels disabled, and morale shattered. The Allied fleet had survived, stronger and more unified than ever. Riven approached Jaren as the ships regrouped. "You have changed everything," he said. "Without you, we would have been annihilated. Your species has proven it can alter the course of entire wars." Jaren shook his head, feeling both pride and exhaustion. "I just did what had to be done. The enemy made mistakes. We exploited them. And we survived. That's what humans do." The Wolf Admiral smiled faintly. "Your humility is admirable. But do not underestimate the impact. Humans are no longer observers in this galaxy. You have earned a place among the most respected strategists in the outer sectors. And not just humans, anyone who follows your lead will be inspired by your vision." Jaren took a moment to look around at the fleet. Alien officers repaired damaged ships, crews worked tirelessly, and even the smallest pilots moved with renewed confidence. He realized that the simple actions of one human could inspire hope across species, a force more powerful than any weapon. "Admiral," he said, "what now?" "The enemy isn't gone. They'll regroup, and this war isn't over." Riven's eyes glinted with determination. "Now, we prepare. But thanks to you, we have a fighting chance. Humans may be few in number, but their minds are unstoppable. The galaxy will learn this lesson soon enough." As they plotted the next moves, Jaren felt a sense of purpose, unlike anything he had known. He had been an ordinary pilot, surviving missions at the edge of known space. Now, he was a central figure in a conflict that spanned star systems, influencing the fate of countless lives. The Wolf Admiral placed a hand on his shoulder. "You are more than a pilot, Jaren Kale. You are a strategist, a leader, and a symbol of what humanity can achieve. The galaxy will remember this day, not because of ships or weapons, but because of your vision." Jaren felt the weight of responsibility, but also a spark of excitement. Humans had always been underestimated, overlooked by powerful empires and alien coalitions. Yet here he was, standing at the center of a war that would reshape the galaxy, showing that ingenuity, courage, and adaptability could overcome even the most formidable enemies. As the fleet moved toward the next sector, Jaren Kale looked at the stars and smiled. The challenges ahead were immense, but humans had proven time and again that they could rise to meet impossible odds. The Wolf Admiral's faith in him was more than a personal honor, it was a recognition of humanity's potential, a spark that could ignite a new era in the galaxy. And somewhere deep in the cold expanse of space, Jaren knew this was only the beginning. The galaxy would soon see that humans, though small and often underestimated, could achieve greatness that even the most powerful fleets could not anticipate. With Riven by his side and the Allied fleet following his lead, Jaren prepared for the next challenge. He knew the enemy would not wait. That danger lurked in every sector, and that only through courage, skill, and relentless ingenuity could they survive. But he was ready. Humans were always ready. And this time, the galaxy would remember them. The calm after the last battle did not last long. Jaren Kale knew this all too well. The enemy had been driven back, yes, but their power remained formidable. And their hatred for those who had resisted only grew stronger. In the central flagship, he stood beside Admiral Riven, watching the stars through the observation deck. The vast blackness of space stretched endlessly before them, and Jaren could feel the tension in the fleet like a low hum beneath the engines. "Captain Kale," Riven said, his voice low but urgent, "the enemy will not forgive the losses we inflicted. They are gathering forces in the neighboring sectors. Soon, they will return with even greater numbers." Jaren's eyes narrowed. "Then we need to strike first. Hit them where they least expect it. Disrupt their command, and show them that humans cannot be underestimated." Riven nodded. "I trust your judgment. You have led my fleet through chaos and emerged victorious where others would have fallen. The time has come for a decisive strike. Will you lead it?" Jaren took a deep breath. Every instinct screamed that this would be dangerous, perhaps the most dangerous mission of his life. But he also knew it was necessary. Humans thrived on challenge, and in moments like this, their ingenuity shone brightest. "I'm ready," he said firmly. The fleet mobilized quickly. Ships were prepped, weapon systems checked, and shields reinforced. Jaren moved from station to station, giving precise instructions, optimizing formations, and making adjustments that seemed minor, but would prove critical in the coming battle. The alien officers watched him with a mixture of awe and respect. Humans were few in number, but under Jaren's guidance, their actions had already changed the course of the war. As the fleet approached the enemy's staging sector, the scale of the operation became clear. Hundreds of enemy ships, large and small, patrolled the area. The central command vessel, larger than anything Jaren had faced before, floated at the heart of their formation. Its weapons bristled with lethal energy, and its presence radiated authority and intimidation. "This is it," Riven said quietly, his ears twitching with tension. "The enemy's heart. Take it down, and we may end this war, or at least cripple their forces for decades." Jaren studied the formation carefully. Conventional attacks would be suicidal. The enemy expected a frontal assault, but humans thrived on unpredictability. "We won't attack head-on," he said. "We'll split the fleet into 3 waves. 2 will feint toward the outer sectors to draw attention. I will lead the central strike, using the nebula to mask our approach and attack the command vessel directly." Riven's eyes glinted with admiration. "Daring, but brilliant. Only a human mind would see such a path. I will trust your judgment completely. The plan was executed with precision. The first wave accelerated toward the outer sectors, drawing the attention of enemy scouts and defensive fleets. The second wave reinforced them, creating the illusion of a broad attack. Meanwhile, Jaren guided the central strike through the nebula, the dense clouds masking their movements. Enemy sensors struggled to track the fleet, their communications becoming frantic as reports of the fleet's position conflicted with one another. Jaren's heart pounded with adrenaline, but his mind remained focused. Every maneuver was calculated, every timing precise. The nebula's turbulence allowed his ships to move almost invisibly, emerging at just the right moment to strike the enemy command vessel. Now, he commanded. Missiles streaked forward, hitting weak points on the command vessel's hull. Shields flickered and failed, and the enemy flagship shuddered under the coordinated assault. Laser fire from the Allied fleet targeted weapon systems, engines, and communications arrays, disabling the vessel systematically. Riven observed in awe as Jaren's human instincts guided the battle. Such precision. Such clarity. Humans truly see the impossible, he murmured to his officers. The enemy attempted to respond, but their movements were slower and less coordinated. They had underestimated humans, relying on predictable strategies and standard patterns of attack. Jaren exploited every error, directing his fleet to strike where the enemy was weakest and retreat where danger was greatest. Hours passed as the battle raged. Jaren's unconventional tactics, relying on creativity and adaptability, began to turn the tide decisively. Enemy ships were disabled, captured, or destroyed. The command vessel, once a symbol of invincibility, now floated, crippled, its crew scrambling to regain control. Amid the chaos, Jaren noticed a small group of enemy vessels attempting to flank the Allied fleet from an unexpected angle. He acted immediately, directing a squadron to intercept them before they could reach vulnerable ships. Using the nebula's turbulence and precise timing, the squadron ambushed the flanking vessels, destroying two and forcing the rest to retreat. Riven's ears twitched in approval. Your anticipation is remarkable. You see danger before it happens, and act decisively. This is why humans are a force the galaxy cannot ignore. As the battle drew to its climax, Jaren focused on the command vessel. Its engines were disabled, its weapons offline, and its shields fractured. But a small contingent of elite enemy fighters launched a desperate counterattack. Jaren piloted his own fighter alongside them, weaving through fire, dodging missiles, and striking with pinpoint accuracy. Every move showcased human ingenuity. Clever use of momentum, exploiting blind spots, and anticipating the enemy's instincts. Finally, the command vessel was immobilized. Jaren signaled the fleet to cease fire, and the remaining enemy ships surrendered or fled. The battlefield fell silent, the hum of engines and distant explosions fading into the void of space. Riven approached Jaren, his expression a mixture of pride and reverence. You have done it, he said. The enemy's command is broken. Their fleet is in disarray. This victory is yours, and it belongs to humanity as well. Jaren shook his head, exhausted but satisfied. It wasn't just me. The fleet followed my lead, trusted my instincts. Without their cooperation, none of this would have been possible. But yes, humans can make a difference. Riven's eyes gleamed. A difference that will be remembered. Humans are no longer bystanders in this galaxy. Your species has proven that courage, ingenuity, and adaptability can overcome even the most formidable foes. The fleet regrouped, repairs began, and the Allied officers celebrated their hard-won victory. Jaren walked among them, feeling the respect and gratitude of beings from multiple species. It was a humbling experience, but also a powerful affirmation of humanity's potential. Later, in a quiet moment on the observation deck, Riven spoke again. Captain Kale, you have shown what humans can achieve, not with brute force alone, but with vision, creativity, and determination. You are a symbol, Not just to my fleet, but to the entire galaxy. Jaren looked out at the stars, feeling the weight of his journey. He had been an ordinary pilot, surviving dangerous missions at the edges of known space. Now, he was a hero in a war that would reshape the galaxy. Yet he knew this was just the beginning. Humans had proven themselves, but the universe was vast, and challenges would continue to come. "I'm not sure about being a symbol," Jaren said quietly, a small smile on his face. "I just do what I can. If humans are remembered for that, then I'm proud." Riven placed a hand on his shoulder, a rare gesture of trust and respect. "Your humility is admirable, but do not underestimate your impact. Today, you have shown the galaxy that humans are more than they appear. We will tell the stories of your deeds, and others will follow in your path." Jaren felt a sense of accomplishment and purpose. He had faced storms, battles, and impossible odds. Yet humans had risen to meet the challenge, proving their courage, ingenuity, and determination. Across the galaxy, species that had once overlooked humanity now understood the truth. Humans were unpredictable, resilient, and capable of greatness. As the fleet prepared to return to Allied space for repairs and regrouping, Jaren reflected on what had happened. A storm on a frontier planet had led him to meet a drenched wolf admiral. That encounter had spiraled into battles, strategy, and heroism beyond anything he had imagined. Yet through it all, human qualities had shone brightest: adaptability, creativity, and courage in the face of overwhelming odds. Riven watched the stars beside him and said softly, "This is only the beginning. Humans will shape the galaxy in ways we cannot yet imagine. And you, Captain Kale, will lead the way." Jaren smiled faintly, a mixture of pride and determination in his eyes. "Then let's make sure the galaxy remembers. Not just humans, but everyone who stands for courage, honor, and ingenuity. That's what matters most." The fleet moved as one, engines glowing softly in the cold expanse of space. Jaren Kale, pilot, strategist, and symbol of humanity's potential, looked ahead to the unknown, ready for whatever challenges awaited. The galaxy had witnessed human brilliance firsthand. And now, nothing would be the same. Humans had arrived. They had proven themselves, and the stars, vast and infinite, awaited their next move.